And you're going to show how to do things magical in pastels and also the acrylic ink. So that'll be really exceptional. About 80 watts, but we'll let you use the phone in that.
What usually happens, I just work straight to you guys
and then we can
the work I've got around here is first of all, at the back of the room, you're going to get all water and pastels, because remember pastels can be used with water. They're just like watercolours. They're held together with gum arabic, so all they are is like solid watercolour in a way, but they're not as transparent. So you can use water with pastels and gradually build them up, bearing in mind that because of the gum arabic, when you first use pastels with water, those first coats are fixed. So don't have to worry about spraying them and everything else. So this is what we're doing tomorrow. We're going to be doing some water and pastel on the watercolour paper, and we're going to be building those up with water at first, and then we're going to do a pastel and blending afterwards. So that's water and pastel. Remember, all of these paintings can be seen being done. All of these methods, I've got over 1,000 films on YouTube. My cards are here, you want to follow these on my YouTube channel, and they're all free to watch. So even Mr. Mike is going to be filming. So if you can't see it, it goes up, we'll go to see it again later. And then I've taken the papers off for good reason. The Jacksons do their own made of pastels, and they do have those bright fluorescent colours. So have a look at these later, come up and have a look later. There is hake and a large oval moth. That's what we've got on the bead on here. But the very small ones too. These, I've got 4 of them to donate to the club here tonight, because they're a member of giving to the club, and you can make some money out of them. The high people having interest rate to it. That was fun. The pens here, and then you've got flats and films, of different sizes. They're ideal for oils or acrylic, and they're just the right sort of consistency. They're not too thick and heavy that they will crack the things off like hoghair, and they're not too light that they'll clog up. You can actually dribble and dot in the inside, like in direct. It can be very effective. You can draw with them literally. Put in there. Yep. Start with a big brush, and we'll literally just wet the paper. Now, I usually use arch paper, arches. Usually use arch, 140 pound hot press, and I've stretched this because I get so much water on it that it will turn to cockle. Tomorrow, it's not quite as bad because you're doing a smaller area at first in more detail. It's only at the end where we're going to be using a lot of water. So if you haven't stretched the paper, I've got to try and see this. Now, if I get too wet, then it's going to just dribble straight down. And I'll tell you an amusing story. I was doing this in New Zealand because I've demonstrated and painted all over the place, which is fun. I was doing it for a primary school, and I was painting a green cow. I was having fun with my colours and painting a green cow out here on the paper. And I kept spraying, and I was looking at chattering away to here, and then suddenly they were laughing. I thought, what's going on? I looked round, and the cow was moving down the paper. You know, as it got so wet, the whole thing was sliding down. Anyway, we managed to rescue it. Right, so I could carry on with the big old hake, but that's why I've got to spray, because I have to keep this wet. But if it's too wet, it slides down the paper. If it's not enough wet, you get a hard edge, and we don't want hard edges at this stage. So working from the lightest to darkest, you can thin this ink down. It's a bit of fun. You can see just how vibrant it is from the start. I need to be very, very loose. I haven't bothered drawing this at all. I haven't bothered drawing today. But now, when I'm doing very loose work like these, yes, I do. I tend to draw out fairly carefully, in fact. I don't fill in with the details, just the outlines. So how luminous and strong these colours are, so I can put on more than one coat. It comes right up to there, a little bit here, a bit there, a bit down there. With painting, I tend to use this. That way, you keep the whole painting going at once, and you keep a coherence. If you paint one part, later on you'll probably find it's not right for the next part. You need to keep comparing. Right, that's that first part. Right colours, right shapes, right places, relevant one to another. Next part is start loose, finish tight. So big brushes first, small brushes at the end. And you hardly have to even clean the brushes, because I'm just going to work wet into wet. Now you see it's just starting to get a little bit drier, so a little squirt, not too much. Even a little squirt. Sorry, that doesn't stop me if I'm too cheeky. A little squirt of the water, and now you see that's gone too dry, it's too hard an edge. Give it a squirt. Not too close, not too far. Wouldn't me. Right. And orange going on back here. Maybe that's a bit too strong. You see how fast? I mean, this actually, because of the air conditioner, I suppose this is quite dry in here, so I'm going to have to keep it really. If I get hard edges, this is not going to work. When I want hard edges, yes, you know, with watercolour you do your soft first and then you tighten up afterwards. Actually you get the effect of distance, don't you? Yes, Pete. Right. So I just enjoy it. I mean, this is such a joyful way to work, and it can work with anything. It can work with, as I say, even seascapes and things. Nothing to stop you. You don't really want to use sponges with this though, because to get it on your hands and it's hard to get off, so it's not always a thing for kiddywinks. Bit of that into there. But it's got beautiful, vibrant stuff. I really want to. Again, if I was on the flat, I could drop this in and make it really spread out, but I can't really do that tonight. Oh, these lovely, these colours though. I'm straight in with these lovely, vibrant colours. And I want some of these to spread more yet. But I can come back in with details. I've no worry. I can cut in and I can cut around. Again, I do want to keep it nice and wet. Got some gorgeous blues here to play with as well. Now this is a metallic one actually. This actually has some reflective metallic materials in it, which is quite fun. So we can really go mixed medium quite a bit here. I haven't got to worry about the whites and the very light colours, daisies and things I can put in afterwards, because I haven't got to mask them out now. Now I'm doing one for Driffield in a few weeks. I'm doing the same for them, but I'm doing 3 parrots going through a jungle. So it's going to be, what I'm going to do is actually mask off with special masking tape, masking sheet. So I can put the masking sheet on and cut around it and then peel off the excess, so that I can paint the wet into wet background of the whole jungle in first, and then peel the tape off and paint the bright colours of these in more carefully. So it won't be wet into wet, it'll be wet into wet background, but it'll be a tighter foreground. So it's just, you know, just throwing out ideas as I'm going along here. Tip of the brush, tickling in the colours, it's great fun. I don't do that many pastels and so on these days, because I tend to find my main market has been paintings to hang ready on the wall, so they tend to like make your marks about like my canvases more, make the marks about the things you're painting always, especially when you're drawing as well. Always make your marks about what you're doing, so if it's crisscross little marks coming on in here, then we start to do that straight away. You can see I can start to make some greens already by even coming in here with the... Can't go far wrong, because if I go wrong I can bring it over with the pastel later. I haven't got to worry too much. And keep it wet. I don't want these to, I want these to spread a bit more yet. I'm not afraid of controlled accident. Like I say, anything could be happening underneath, so long as I get the... Isn't it just fun? It's just fun to do, you know. I mean, it's so loose, and this is what I wanted. I mean, now remember, you can use these on canvas. Nothing will stop you from using this as an underpainting for your acrylics or oils. You can paint oils over acrylics, you can't put acrylics over oils. So we could use this as underpainting loosely, swirling it on, marbling it on, and then painting an oils over the top or acrylics over the top afterwards. That's what I want tonight, is to show you ideas and just to get you infused and inspired to enjoy painting. That's what it's about. It's not just having to paint everything just looking like something, you know. You can just enjoy colour. Oh, you've got some, thanks. You didn't find that, Rosie? Why didn't you find that? Mark found it. Right. Oops, I've got some pink on my paper now. I must put my smock on because I'm going to get in the right mess in a minute. Right. I get so carried away. I mean, this is it. When I get painting for a demo, I have to stop myself sometimes from just disappearing into it, and I'm just enjoying. And that's what painting should be about. Now one colour comes into another, which is another reason I was talking about. When you're painting, if you've got a colour on your brush, use it. Because if you just paint separately, it's not going to be right at the end probably. And one colour does come into another in nature. We've got different lights in the sky. Every single colour has a colour hue. Every single yellow has a cool yellow and a warm yellow. Every red has a much warmer one here. Every single colour is going to have a warm and a cool. I've just spilled a bit of pink over here, so I'll be painting that into it. There's lovely colours coming into here. Keep them wet. You see, it's just getting a little bit harder there. I'm going to have to come back and let's have a slightly stronger red going down there. And as I go along, you might even start to see certain flowers appearing, which you didn't see before. They start to look like certain plants, like the lupins I'm doing here now, for instance, might start to make more sense as I go along. And I was talking to Narka saying, well, this one tonight, it's another one of these demos where we're painting loosely with the abstract, and at any stage you might decide to finish. And this is what I was saying to when we were talking about Anne earlier in the lessons we used to hold at my place when we were up Nelson Street, that somebody came to me who was painting very, very tightly with watercolour and wanted to loosen up. And we did this method, and they got halfway through. She was so involved she didn't really think about it. She wasn't uptight. So I said, stop, stand back a minute. She's done a lovely loose semi-abstract painting. She said, don't take any further, it's fine like it is. Why do you have to go into something that you've preconceived? Let the art take it a bit. I might get halfway through this and actually I prefer to keep it as it was. Wouldn't it be lovely as a silk painting or something like that? You know, you could use it for all sorts of things, couldn't you? So don't be bound, you have to go somewhere with the painting. Let the painting at times take you with it. Even hairdressers, isn't it? There's some nice big blobs here of red. Now we're starting to see these different colour hues as well. We're starting to see the warmer reds and the cooler reds. Good old colour hue. He's a lovely fellow, is he? And let this lovely abstract way of working, this wet into wet, have the pleasure of it. Remember, if you use the paint thinner, just like watercolour, you can make a lighter colour of it. So if I use this purple thinner now, look, I can get quite a light purple. And a trickle everywhere, and I'm going to have to bring it out with the pastels later. Or I can use it a bit thicker, a much deeper purple. There's a lovely big iris just here. Let's try and put that in one nice big, I don't want it trickling too far, but I want a nice big wet into wet dark iris there. And we'll drop in a bit of lovely Prussian blue into that. These lovely rich colours. It's fun. Go mad. But you've got to be very brave, yes. But I mean, it's the same with any loose painting. You know, what are you going to lose? A piece of paper, a canvas, you can paint over it again, the canvas, you can even paint over this again. Don't worry about everything coming out to go on the wall, or what the neighbour might think, or the Art Society might think. Or to move forward, you often have to take a step or two back and then move forward again. You've got to explore, and you've got to experiment to move forward and take a chance. And I've said this in exhibitions, in demos before. Life is about taking risks. Calculated risks. Don't put yourself at risk. But without taking risks, we can't move forward. No adventure ever happened without a risk. Otherwise it wouldn't be an adventure. It's too safe, isn't it? Lovely blues. Look at this lovely blue. This is an ultramarine type blue. And again, now you can see the difference in the colour hues here as I come down into it. That purple needs to come up there. I want more wet. So it's very abstract at the moment, and you might decide that is how you want to go, so you don't change it, you just keep it like this. And the more colour I lay on, I'm also starting to work slightly more tonally on it, because I'm going not only from cool to warm, but I'm also starting to go a little bit darker and darker as I go along. Bit thinner. You see, when you're doing something like this, you can't guarantee that it's going to come out perfectly, because you are using controlled accident. So I'm having to risk my neck a bit in making a fool of myself even doing this. Let us hope that it comes out as you find enjoyable and different. Well, I'm not adhering to the drawing at all. I'm just basically where I want things, but I'll just let it take its own path quite a bit, because I know I can bring this out with the pastels later. Be bold, have fun. So once I've got all this done, well, I'll have time for a tea break because it needs to dry off before I can come back and work into it then. But this is the way I was working towards the end at Magnus, and towards the end. Become much, much looser and more abstract, and this is a lovely way to work. So make the marks just about what you're doing. I'm just making these marks. Follow the flow of the branches coming over and through here now. Bet you didn't expect this tonight. You never know what to expect of me, actually. Now I can bring these flowers up more. I've dropped them down a bit much, so I'm going to have to. I know I've got to come back into here. And but you watercolourists will probably be enjoying this as well, because this is a lovely way to work with watercolour. That's pretty loose, wetting to wet. It was the floor. So we've got a lot running down because I'm thinking vertically, but if you were doing this you could do it obviously on the flat and then you'd be more in control, but I still want these light colours glowing through, so I'll be alright. I'll get the idea of it when I've got far enough and I'll start putting the pastel in. What is when's tea time? About 8 o'clock. Yeah, so we're just about right then. So if I can just get this a little bit, a few more colours on. In 5 minutes, I'll have a cuppa or whatever you want to have on a break, and then I'll pick up on this with the pastels, and you'll get the idea of it. Right, let's let that dry off now. And then you have a cup of tea now. Take the picture. Right. So anyway, let's just make a mark again with this harder pastel. I'm up here now. Now the paper's still a little bit damp, but you see the harder pastel isn't going on that easily, is it? It's okay when it's really dry. Let's take the softer pastel now, and look how much brighter that is. I hope you can see from way back there, but the soft pastels. Now, pastel works, I told you about it being gum arabic and pigment, but pastel works by the reflection of light on the tiny particles of the pigment. So if we're blocking and blending in the old English technique, that's fine, but it will kill the whole pastel. It makes it all very flat. So you do your first coats with pastel and you can blend them, and you can use water and they'll be flat, but your final coats should be fresh, clean and left alone. Okay? That's the way pastel works. So you don't, if you use fixative, it tends to flatten them as well. Fixative is not always a good idea. If you've got two good mounts and glass, you shouldn't need fixative. Again, people often use hairspray. I found this when travelling abroad. America wouldn't let oil paints on, but they would let acrylic paints on. They wouldn't let a fixative spray on, but they would allow a hairspray on. Madness. But hairspray is a bit worrying because it can be very oily and can ruin a pastel too, so be careful. So there's a difference in them.
As well. It's splodges as well. It makes splodges.
Oh, it can do that because it's got oily. That's what it depends on the spray and the quality of it. But yeah, but I don't use fixative anyway. I don't need to. Right, let's go on with this.
391. 391.
I'll just start to pick them out, bit by bit. And if I was doing figures or I was doing a cafe scene, that's hardly working the same. We gradually bring the whole picture out of the mist, if you like. We gradually pick it out more and more and more until we're happy that it's finished. It doesn't have to be a very tight picture. You can finish as you want. I'm going to go a little bit further tonight, as far as I can go, just to show you, but so you can use it lightly to let the colour underneath come through, or you can push harder to get much stronger, brighter colours. But I won't go over all of the colours that I've done, because what's the point otherwise? I've lost a lot of them as it is because it's trickled down so much. I would normally have a bit more colour left behind here, just so you realise that. But very impressionistically, just making marks about what is there. I'm not trying to copy this off exactly, I'm just making marks about the moment. What I should be doing, and I'll go back on this in a minute, because I put these films also onto the Unison site, whenever I use a colour I normally tell you the number, so that's why I keep 2 boxes. If I'm using the sideways on pastel, I can check that against my box with the colours on, you see, so I can then say what I've used. I know what I've used here at the moment, but I'll go back with these colours and I will tell you the numbers on the film of each one, so I can list them off when it goes up on their website. Right, let's have a look at, we're going to do some much lighter yellows, so we'll go to let's have an A12, a yellow, and we'll start to get some of these lovely light colours against the sunlight up here. And just make the marks about what you're painting. Don't try and paint every flower, just be an impressionist at the moment, and as I do this, I hope that gradually you'll start to see these flowers, the forms taking shape. I'm going to go back to a light turquoise blue. This is a BG16. I'm going to be glasses on. So it's going to be light on the outside here. It's the same with drawing. If you do a drawing and you do a tram line around something and it's absolutely flat, it won't have form at all. Even without shading, no amount of shading will make a tram line drawing have much form. Although Gauguin managed it very well, it's a different way of working. So your line has to be about the object. So if it's a very broken edge, then you have a broken line. If it's a smooth edge, a smooth line. If it's light shining and reflecting off something, then the line disappears altogether. And if your line is made about the edges that you're doing, you'll already have form. I mean, the stuff in the prison. So now you see I'm just starting to work those colours I've done behind the ones that I'm putting on. Lovely and loosely. Just going to play with a red 15 here, which is a lovely deep sort of almost magenta. They don't, in the Unisons, they don't do a proper magenta. This is about the nearest you can get, this one, and I'll use other magentas in a minute to bring this out. But I'm playing the warm against the cool, the light against the dark, and the rough against the smooth. So that's the other things we've got in our armoury. Warm against cool, light against dark, rough against smooth. We've also got those colour hues we said, warmer colours, cooler colours of each one. And we've also got the opposites in the colour circle, meaning the complementary colours. And a bit of that is going to start going on in here with these ice cold colours and warmer colours. I was doing this one of the owls yesterday, a different one for another group yesterday afternoon, a local group, and we were doing bluebells, and people often think bluebells are going to just be blue, but they weren't. We were doing a series of different pinks and warmer colours for the sunlight over the bluebells. It's quite surprising. That's another again. That was a blue violet again. That last colour was a, where are we, for those that want to know, a BV5. Back to one of my favourite colours, the BV12, which is this beautiful ultramarine. Beautiful colour. It really just brings things out. One of Monet's favourites. So we're just starting, and I say it's like an orchestra, isn't it? Make the colours sing, because we've got an orchestra of different tones of colour. We've got the little vibrant light colours coming in like cymbals. We've got the big bass drums with the deep greens and so on in the background. There's a lot between the arts and music and painting, plastic painting, and poetry as well to a degree. I did one for the I did one down in Plymouth Aquarium. I did a month down in Plymouth Aquarium years ago, and I did a large painting doing one of my poems in that, which was called Sea Sounds, and every single word had an S at the start, or an S sounding, soft, soothing, cerulean seas. You know, the whole poem was built of that, and I did this underwater scene, and then had the poem weaving wider and smaller right the way down through the fish and the outback. So we can link all of these things. Don't just have to paint. We can link word, we can link sound, we can link light, kinetic art, movement. I really do start to explore, and if I just worried about being able to sell the work, I would have stopped years ago. You can't. It's something you can't worry about. It's just got to paint because you're born to paint. You just got to enjoy. We've got that lovely iris coming up there and down. Let's put another bit of one of the turquoises there. This is a BG8 turquoise coming up behind, because the greens are warm and cool, and in this case we've got a very cool green in the shadow coming up between these here. And then down there it's much, much darker, so I'm going to put a very deep green in there. This one's a dark 8. And I can smooth if I want, I can smudge if I want. Most of my colour has been pure because I want it to shine out and to really shine out purely. I don't want to deaden it too much, but I'm going to use a little bit of smudging here and there, especially back here. Start to see these forms just beginning now. These different flower heads coming up here. We've got a very, very light pinky blue. This one's a BG4. So what's that one like? It's quite sort of slightly grey pink up here. Pinky blue, I mean, pinky blue. Down to a Prussian. This one's on a BV18. It's really down to a very dark sort of almost black blue here. But I've got a reason for this one. I'm putting this one in now because I want to put the light next to it. Light next to dark, warm next to cool, rough next to smooth. A whole bunch of plants is just beginning to take form now. I can start putting some shadows in back here. If that's too cool, I can make it warmer. I can bring in a much warmer purple. We'll take a, whatever this one is, what is it, A36, which is quite a nice deep purple. Let's warm that cool up a bit back in there. Shadows are going to be both warm and cool. They're not going to just be black. Back to my deep blue again. Wherever he's going. Well, this is a very dark blue, this one. I want to put, now I save white and black till the very end of a painting. The reason being, you can't go blacker than black and you can't go whiter than white. Where there is light, as the impressionist said, there must be colour. These lights, maybe pink or yellow or blue light from the sky or whatever, that's going to be over everything, isn't it? So if I'm painting somebody's white hair, it's not going to be white, it's going to be cream from the light or whatever. And blacks are the same. Blacks are going to be reflecting light. So I normally make my blacks out of Prussian blue and a dark colour, a dark warm like burnt sienna or something like that. But I do now reserve black, and I do use it quite a bit at the very end of a painting because I can't go blacker, but I don't use it until then. I don't use black for mixing either because it mixes into mucky. Pure colours right the way through, and using very deep colours for blacks, but at the end I will often just do a bit of black, especially in the foreground, to play against those other dark colours, because they look black until, like that one does now, until you actually put a black next to it. So let's, just for fun, I'll just show you what I mean there. So that one's coming down, very deep dark blue there, right down to those flowers and in between here to make them stand out. But if I come back with a little bit of actual, something that would be black, this is a CB, a carbon. You see the difference in that? And one colour can change your entire painting. So let's get to something as well. So I'm going to leave that black to the end, but I will be putting a little bit of black in at the very end, and you can just see what it's going to do, because it will make those darks suddenly seem more colourful. So it's and as I say, in the next 20 minutes or so, this painting is going to really suddenly come together and start to sparkle and sing. Whoa! I like to make the colours vibrate and sing together. I like them to be cheerful, be alive, be... And I'm going to put a bit of white in this in a minute, just to show you what happens when we do. Watch where these colours are coming. These little bits of cream are coming into these colours down here as well. Right down into here. And what happens if we do put some white on that now, just for the hell of it? If I can find where that goes. As near as damn it white anyway. What's this one? This is a grey 28. I think actually a light 1 is about the lightest we can go, but let's have a go with this one first and just see how it goes. Yeah, that's light enough. Right, so we've got some white irises here, or delphiniums. No, these. I think this is an iris, but it might be. And it will start to bring out the lighter colours around it as well. So if I wanted daisies, I could put a daisy in, you see, this way. I wouldn't have to mask off necessarily. I could put the whites in afterwards. But let's have some sort of little white flowers down here where they actually are. That's the coming up to here. Very loose at the moment, but I can tighten up more and more and more. I could even come in. Remember that pastel pencils are very useful, but the pastel pencils are a little bit awkward over. When you've already got pastel, they like to go onto a dark paper or a velvet, or they're quite difficult to get onto a paper when you've actually already got pastel there. So who would have thought watercolour paper will take this pastel far better than you think. And when I was saying about pinks in the bluebells, if I want to make these blues bluer, and that takes me back to an old story when I was painting Bridge Harbour one morning, and I was trying to do a sunrise, and I kept putting more and more yellow, more and more orange, more and more, I couldn't get it more and more red. Why wouldn't it? Idiot. You go the other way, you put more blue to bring the opposite out. Light against dark, warm against cool, rough against smooth. So if I want a brighter sunrise, I'm going to put more cools around it. If I want to paint a red fluorescent jacket, I'm not going to paint red fluorescent paint on, I'm going to put that paint on, but I'm going to put a much duller colour around it and an opposite, the green perhaps, or the power of. If I want a really bright sunlit day, then we've got very strong shadows and very light lights. So I would paint the opposite in the colour circle on the shadows. For instance, I'd paint purple shadows against yellow sand. If I want a very dull day, then the colours are much closer together, and I'll be using an earth palette, burnt sienna, burnt umber. Let's use one of those harder pastels now. This is an inscribe. Because the paper is now drier, and I've got most of my pastel on, look, I can use the inscribe more. It will go on because the paper's drier, it won't fight the pastel, and now I'm not going to cut into the paper. Let's look at the opposites there. We need the greens in between these reds to make the reds work. Now some might even leave it there. I mean, it's quite nice. It's almost, in some ways, it's almost there now. But we'll just carry on as far as we can until the time's up, and it'll give you an idea of how far we can. Just making the marks about what is there. I'm not trying to copy every leaf. I'm not going to go into that sort of detail. We know we've got an iris there. It's a very impressionist piece, but the more I work on it, the more figurative it's going to become. So you have to decide where you're going to finish. And I want to push that back a bit, so I need some cooler greens back there. What's this one? This is a... no, I want a bit more than that. I think I'll go slightly turquoise back there, actually. I'm going to take a deep turquoise, which is a BG14, and just take a bit more of that. I want to push this back. Now, you see what I'm doing there. Normal daylight, you've got cool in the distance and warm in the foreground. The exception being sunrise, sunset, when you've got cool in the foreground and warm in the background. This is clearer air in the Mediterranean than here, and this happens because of the water molecules, droplets in the air. It's drier usually in the Mediterranean, with climate change, God knows, and so therefore it's clearer and the light is brighter and you see further. Over here, normally the water, the air is a lot damper, so you don't see as far, and it's mistier, so therefore it gets cooler sooner. Normally we go for sharper in the foreground, more out of focus in the background as well, as a recipe in the cake. But there is no one right and wrong rule. I'm just giving you the basic cake making, so you have another nice sponge at the end. But we can change that recipe. We can add a few currants, we can change the rules around a bit. We can deliberately focus on one part. And that's the way of watercolour painting I was shown by an artist in New Zealand years ago, where instead of, as we would do, painting the whole painting and then figures details at the end, he painted the figures in first very loosely, and then would do a very loose painting around them. And it works. So there's exceptions to every rule. So let's just go back into here with these cools, because I want these cools to make the warmer greens look warmer. If I put a few of these colours in immediately, then the greens around it become warmer than this particular blue, which I can then bring down into these colours as well. Methods of my madness, but right down into here against that red. Down there, this turquoise, which is the cool green. There's more yellow down here yet. More yellow green. Let's go back in with one of the earlier greens we used. Lovely light purples. Let's have a look at my new colours, which I haven't used much. These are these new Jacksons. And let's see what sort of colours we can get with them that we haven't got with the others. A little bit of these. They don't have magentas, and that's what I'm using now, is a bit more of this magenta here. And then there's some very lovely reds as well. I'm going to go back to my Unisons for the red. Pick up an A15. This is quite a deep red. Down here, some lovely reds and oranges happening. And then there's a beautiful magenta down here. Now what can we do with that one? I think that might be, let's have a look, is it this one? Let's have a look and see. Yes, it's a little bit lighter than that. Try that one. Yeah, that's more like it. And I know we could say bad workmen blame their tools, but to be fair, if you haven't got the colour, you can try and use tone, you can try and use opposites, you can try and use all sorts, but if you ain't got it, you ain't got it. I remember I was trying to paint azaleas in Savannah, America, and I only had rose madder or rose or alizarin crimson, and to make a purple you do need turquoise, and you will need I don't think what the colour is myself now, magenta. You can't make a purple without magenta or turquoise or cerulean. If you just mix, as the school says, red and blue, you'll end up with a browny purple. But if you use the magenta and the blues, you'll get a wonderful rich purple. Magenta even and ultramarine will give you a really deep, lovely purple. So remember, you cannot, something on your palette you can't do without. So don't just think you can do red and blue, you can't. I know you've had some fantastic, I keep an eye on your website, and there's lovely artists and beautiful work going on, and you get some wonderful demonstrators as well. I think, oh God, what am I going to do compared to that? You've had some wonderful acrylic tutors and all sorts. This is why I try to choose something totally different. In fact, we are almost going into, I'm just getting towards, and I'm using my very dark blues and so on, but I'm just getting towards needing a bit of black here and there now to really get some depth into these massive flowers. So I'm not trying to reproduce every single flower in here. I'm trying to make a slightly abstract painting about something that vibrates and sings and has the joy of the summer, the bees buzzing around in here. Let's get some darks in down here now. Right, let's get a bit of black in so we can get some darks showing down here. Will that do then?
Yeah.
Will that give you, I mean, you know, you can see we're almost there. You could keep working up as detailed as you want, but I've used the underpainting to glow through and kept some of that, but I've been able to work across. Now, tomorrow we're doing water and pastel. There's no reason why I couldn't take a wet brush now, a fine brush, and actually pick up some of this pastel to do even finer lines if I wanted to. So it's much more multimedia. Okay. Was that good?
So if you can all put your hands together for Peter, because he's going to have you.
So there we are, loose and fine.
Can you do me a favour? Can you just hold that one near him so that you can get an idea? Yes. Peter's got a good garden, I think.
But this is made up on the computer, this one is Chichi. Well, had that wonderful demo and workshop at Bridlington, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And here we are with the result of the owl one. Difficult to see, I know, with the reflecting on the cellophane, but that's the best way to keep them, with the mount as well. And I want to cut a mount for this one today after I finished it. Now I need to go back on and just tighten it up another half an hour or so more, I suspect. Just pull it together a little bit tighter. It was just to show it on the night how we can work from loose to tight and get these wonderful vibrant colours using the acrylic inks and then working through to the soft pastels. Okay, let's carry on with that then. And here's our set of pastels. I also have my midnight set and my bright set of Jacksons as well, because until Unison managed to get these very vibrant, bright fluorescent colours, I've got to get those few extra ones in, and of course I can also use the Inscribe for that as well. So the few extra colours on this, the few extra brighter ones, are from Jacksons, but all of the rest are with Unison. We also need the sprays for this picture as well. Right, let's start working into this then, and we'll try and get these colours a little bit more clarified. That one's going up there, this one's coming down here, so we've got to bring these beautiful. Now I've got my layers of pastel already done with the water, so that's fairly well fixed. What I've got to do now is come on with these pastels, but I've only got chance to do about another one coat or two coats, because it is already fairly heavy, so I can't do too much more. Right, we've got a really lovely bright fluorescent pink almost happening up into here, and these are the colours again that we can't get with the Unisons, but I can with the Jacksons. Well, we haven't lost all the background colours by any means, we've still got them there. I've got to look at the very light blues that are going on into the surfaces of these little purple flowers, and it's not another purple, in fact, it's a light blue, a bit like the bluebells coming in here. It's, you know, the opposites in the colours. And you see I'm going down much more into detail now, just little pointillist strokes. Really rich red there. Almost down, in fact, to a brown. I think we need to get a little bit of a richer, deeper, warmer red there to bring out these brighter reds. See what effect that has. But there's so many colour hues going on. There's so many beautiful colours in here I haven't even used yet. Playing the warms against the cools there amongst these reds now. And we've got to work on the background here as well, which also has warms and cool greens coming in. See what that does. It's a bit too grey, I think. But it just cuts down the light a little bit and it makes something duller against the vibrancy, which is what we really want to see. Light areas of, even amongst here we've got the very light colours just gleaming through and on the edges. So let's go back to the greens and the creams. Let's have a look now at a few of these stems coming up through here and the lighter areas. Make things with as few marks as possible. It's always, often the case is less is more, as long as you get the less right. Every mark should have a meaning. You don't need to go, it's getting so dotty now, it's getting incredible, isn't it? You don't need to go too much more. Okay, let's put more ultramarine down there, I can see, yeah, but all in good time. Almost there. So we were just about to do the white, that's what I was about to do, but I got called away. Not to shine, certainly, but we don't want to kill it. Put that one down and we'll pick up a stronger yellow. Not quite as strong as that one maybe. Let's have a look what we need here. Yeah, I've got some very orange yellows here that I haven't used yet. We've got some very bright greens going on. I think we do have in here. So that purple comes down there. Maybe it's a little bit cooler green than that. What's this one like? Yes, that's quite a cool green. Might be coming into here in places, yep. How much more do we do? It really does start to bring out. Now we're playing our whites and our blacks at the very end. We don't want to use them too soon. I said I spent half an hour, I've probably spent an hour or so now, but it's all worth it. Can't put any more on there, that's saturated. But we can still down here, so we will. You can see it yourself now, we're at the closing stages. Got the variety of greens we're looking for. I would say that's almost done because we don't want to go to super realism. It's only meant to be a few of these very light greens now. Just to define things a bit more and not be too itsy bitsy. You see, pushing so hard now that I'm crushing the pastel, but that's how hard I've got to do to get these last colours in. Come out with our ultramarine blue that is so gorgeous, and we'll come back into some of these purples and try and unite it a bit more with this one blue, which is so lovely. I've got some very deep blue that I can get to, I think, amongst these. The ultramarine can pull things together, as you know how much Monet loved it. Obviously I love Monet, so I'm going to be using it in the same way, I hope, that he
enjoyed it. And do we have a much deeper blue that will work? Yes, I think we do. Maybe it's too deep even. Separated out the flower stems quite a lot more now. I reckon these warms against cool still. Yes, I think we'll suddenly find ourselves almost there. These little light highlights just finishing it off. Before it dissolves into just too many dots and dashes, because we've almost lost the background. It's still glowing through. You'll be surprised how much of the background is glowing through actually. It is still there. That one away. And what have we got? What haven't we got is more the point now. Lovely shadows in here. Last strokes just to make things work. Using the very bright pinks again, just going back in with them just to try and find this cacophony of light and colour. And there now, just the last few touches I think to make it up. And shall we finish just with that? Just playing these last few bits of warm and cool against it. Right, it's the final whites again. Just check them out. Can't go whiter than white, but it might just need a few more bits. So what are we going to side it with? These are always difficult things to consider at the end of a picture. I wonder if a China craft pencil will go on it. Might. It's there. We don't want it getting in the way. Lighten the signature a little bit there. Now, are there any colours that I really have obviously missed and need to put in? Maybe the odd one. Well, I think that's that one completed. Let's see how it looks on the film.